Good morning. I want to talk today about the upcoming lunar month from July 24th through August 22nd and how it will likely impact the world, America, and Donald Trump. So let's see if I can share my screen and we can get started. This will take just a minute. And I have to get rid of some windows so I can see what I'm doing here. So just bear with me. Oops. This is a little tricky to do sometimes. And I'm almost there. And I think we're about ready to go. Okay, so here we are. The lunar month for the world, America, and Trump, July 24th through August 22nd, 2025. And this is a graph showing the transits for June and July. I used this in my last presentation. And July 24th, that's going to start about here. The next lunar month contains these aspects. And you can see what is going to be prominent in the month to come. We have these two very momentous astrological configurations. First, we have Saturn conjunct Neptune within 1 degree orb, which began in June, has been in effect all of July, and will be in effect throughout the rest of the lunar month, July and August. And this represents the dissolving of a lot of old structures in the world, and these old structures being replaced by new visions and new ideologies. And sometimes those new visions are very good visions, but sometimes they aren't. They're just going to be new, not necessarily good or bad. But the other thing that's starting to form over here is this double sextile trine that in August we will see between Uranus sextile Saturn and Neptune making a sextile to Pluto, and then Pluto making a trine to Uranus. The trine between Pluto and Uranus, that won't be within 1 degree orb until I think about the second week of August. We'll see on the next slide. But that is already forming. And this is bringing hope to the world. This represents good coordination between these higher, more transcendent drives and energies represented by Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. This is going to result in more progressive attitudes and opening up of people's minds. Some will become enlightened, but most will just open up, become more liberal, more progressive, and we will see people around the world demanding a better way forward. And that is going to kind of counterbalance this conjunction between Saturn and Neptune, where old structures are disappearing. And of course, we're seeing that brought on and energized by Trump with all of his tariffs and upending of our relationships with America's allies. You know, a lot of things in the world are changing right now, but there is this hope represented by the Uranus, Neptune, Pluto double sextile trine. Okay, so that's how we're starting the month. And we get into July. You're seeing a lot of nice blue bars representing trines and sextiles. And let's see, when we get into sort of the middle of the second week, that is when Uranus trine Pluto gets within 1 degree of orb. And so we have this nice period here where we have Uranus sextile Neptune, Neptune sextile Pluto, and Pluto trine Uranus. Okay, that is going to be very beneficial in many ways. Now, a lot of the action is going to occur from in the second week, from about the 8th through the 10th or 11th. 8th and 9th is when we have some particular tensions with Mars in opposition to Saturn and then Mars in opposition to Neptune. That could potentially be very difficult. It's always a matter of concern when two malefics like Mars and Saturn are in opposition to one another. But as we'll see in a mid-month chart, we're going to see that Mars is also involved in a grand trine. And there will be a very harmonious kite formation in the sky around this time. And so that will probably lessen some of the potential damage. So all in all, for the world, it's not going to be a bad month. We're going through changes. Saturn conjunct Neptune this summer is giving us a taste of what to expect this coming February 20th, 2026, when the Mars-Neptune conjunction becomes exact. The world is in the process of changing paradigms and ideologies. Old structures, old ways of doing things are dissolving. But at the same time, the Uranus-Neptune-Pluto double-sextile trine is giving us hope and new inspiration, new creativity, the ability to renew the world. So we're seeing both of these things play out in August. And that is going to be how the world in general is impacted. Now let's look at the new moon, first quarter, full moon, third quarter moon, and then the following new moon at the end of the lunar month. And let's pick up a little bit more details. Now, at the start of this lunar month, you can see we have not only this Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto double sextile trine, but Sun and Moon are going to work with Uranus and Saturn, Neptune to make a second double sextile trine. So there's going to be a lot of more pleasant, more beneficial energies showering the world during this month. That is going to be the good thing. That will give us some relief. And people are going to be looking for something new and something more transcendent. We do have Sun and Moon in opposition to Pluto at the beginning. That, of course, will pass quickly, but it sets a certain tone for the month. With Sun and Moon in Leo, people want to express their individual creativity. They want some recreation, some good times. But the powers that be, represented by Pluto now in Aquarius, that is going to be in opposition to the people's wishes. So some things will be happening which will be oppressing the people a little bit, as they simply want to have a good time and enjoy their lives. Also, Mars was recently in conjunction with the lunar nodal axis. It's squaring Venus. We have a T-square formation here. And this can create some anger and some intensity in people's lives at the beginning of this month. There may be some things that people want to do or thoughts they have about what they value. But Mars and Virgo is going to be sticking to certain rules, regulations, and aggressively opposing that to some extent. This could also result in amorous feelings among young people, feelings, desires for physical connection, physical love. So we have some tensions here, some things making people a little angry or dissatisfied, but all in all, there are going to be some very harmonious energies this month. as represented by those double sextile trines, two of them. When we get to the first quarter moon, the new moon, first quarter moon, full moon, third quarter moon, they are all times of increased tension when things feel a little bit more intense. But at the first quarter moon, you can see the Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, double sextile trine is still very strong. Venus, however, in Cancer is going to be making a strong square to Saturn, Neptune. And this tells me that with Venus in Cancer, people just want to feel safe and secure in their own homes. They just want to get on with their lives. But there are going to be some policy changes, represented by Saturn conjunct Neptune, that are interfering with that. Of course, we've been seeing that sort of thing going on in America for quite a while with all these raids by ICE upending people's lives. Now, when we get to the full moon, we not only have this Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto double sextile trine going on, but we also have Mercury, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, essentially forming another double sextile trine. I'm using special orbs, which are a little tight here, but after all, Uranus and Mercury are only about 3 degrees apart from exact sextile, so it's going to effectively be there. So we could say we have 2 double sextile trines going on, releasing tension. Mars is in opposition to Saturn and Neptune, but as I said earlier, there's a grand trine that's involved with and a kite formation that it makes with the double sextile trine. So that is going to release a lot of tension and help Mars express itself more positively. Thus, some astrologers are expecting more disaster from this opposition. There could be some, but I think it will be more beneficial and more energizing, most likely, than it will be debilitating. We also have Mercury in opposition to Pluto. So there might be some vocal opposition, protest to people in power. But again, Mercury is effectively forming another double sextile trine with Uranus and Saturn, Neptune, so that is going to help release a fair amount of tension. So things are not looking too bad at the time of the full moon. And things look very good at the third quarter moon. Of course, we do have a square between Sun and Moon, but that defines what a third quarter moon is. It intensifies, it makes things a little bit more intense. But otherwise, we have some very good aspects. And the opposition here from Mars, that is fading. So we have the Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, double sextile trine going on. We have Venus in Cancer making trines and sextiles to the lunar nodal axis. So Venus is going to be feeling better now. Let's see, if we go a couple of weeks earlier, we had Venus making that square between Saturn and Neptune on August 1st, the first quarter moon. But by the time we get to August 15th, the third quarter moon, Venus is feeling happier and secure in its home. So this will be overall a pleasant time for the world, most likely. Things can be difficult in particular countries because of transits to their country's chart, but for the world in general, there are going to be some positive changes. And with Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus and Gemini, it's expected that there will be more technology and more inventions coming along. Probably a lot of announcements or things being initiated in this particular lunar month. And let's see, this brings us to the next new moon on August 22nd. That'll be the end of the lunar month and the beginning of another. We still have that Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto double sextile trine going on. We have Jupiter making positive aspects to the lunar nodal axis. That will help with growth and help make people feel more expansive and more unlimited. But we also have a couple of squares to deal with. We have Sun and Moon square Uranus. That is going to create some tension and some chaos that will be more prominent in the next lunar month. And also, Sun and Moon are making a quincunx to Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. That means that people, and since this is in Virgo, probably workers and healthcare workers, are going to have to make adjustments to new policies that are coming along. Okay, and then this is very worrisome to me. We have Venus in a strong square to Chiron, and this could result in some wounding. Venus and Cancer just wanting to feel safe and secure in one's own home. It got some relief a week ago at the third quarter moon. Things were looking better, but at the end of this lunar month, beginning of the next one, things get very tense for Venus once again, and people in their homes could experience wounding rather than safety and security. Okay, and now let's look at how this affects the United States chart. I'm using July 2nd, 1776 chart for America because that is when the Constitutional Congress actually made the decision to declare independence. That's when they passed the Declaration for Independence. July 4th is when it was printed and distributed. So I tend to think of the July 2nd chart as representing more America on the inside, the July 4th chart as having more to do with America's persona. Aside from rising signs and house cusps, the main difference is the position of the moon, with July 4th having moon in Aquarius, so America likes to see itself as, humanitarian, very charitable, the leader in technology, and spreading democracy and freedom around the world. On the inside, though, in the July 2nd chart, we have moon in Capricorn. That represents our inner nature. We've seen all too often of America being very controlling, trying to control women. We have a shameful history involving slavery. We have engaged in genocide against Native Americans. We have in many ways tried to control and coerce other countries to make them do what we feel is to our benefit. Okay, but a lot of what I say about this July 2nd, 1776 chart will also apply to the July 4th chart. And the next lunar month is represented by this part of the chart in late July. And what do we have going on here? Well, we still have Chiron square, natal Pluto, wounding the country's power or the president more directly. We have the transiting lunar nodal axis where natal Mars, that is going to intensify aggression and anger. We have transiting Mars conjunct Neptune. That can result in violence, fanaticism, misinformation, disinformation, illusion of all sorts. But at the very end of the month, we also have Mars making a trine to natal Moon as sextile to natal Mercury. So there might be some good economic news at the end of the month, at the end of July, which makes people feel a little better about things. Now, in August, the rest of the lunar month takes place pretty much here. And this represents how the next lunar month starts. And you can see we have transiting Chiron square natal Pluto throughout all of August. Okay, so again, ongoing wounding to America's power and prestige, and probably also to Donald Trump. We start out with a nice favorable trine from transing Mars to natal Pluto, but that goes away. On the 7th, we have transiting Mars square natal Venus. So this is a few days here where people may be feeling angrier, but also more amorous. Now, a lot of the action, it looks like it takes place in the middle of August. And what do we have here? We have Jupiter, transing Jupiter square Saturn, and transing Mars square natal Jupiter on the same day. This suggests that there could be some sort of overreach for America, and maybe our tendencies toward violence or aggression might get magnified at this point. But we have a definite clash between the desire to grow and the need to regulate going on. So growth will meet with some sort of frustration. Now let's see, 17th, 19th, 20th, everything involves Mars. We have Mars sextile, the north node, which means it's trine the south node, and we have transiting Mars, making a trine to natal Uranus. Those are going to work out beneficially, but Mars conjunct ascendant and square the midheaven, that could result in aggressive actions or vocal protests within the country and against the president, against the executive branch. So there is a heightened risk of some sort of aggression taking place during this period. At the very end of August, when we're getting into the next lunar month, we don't have the lifelines that we had in the middle of the month coming from sextiles and trines. Instead, we're just going to have Saturn square Venus, which creates more discontent, transing Mars square natal Sun, which creates more aggression, and transiting Mars conjunct natal Saturn, which results in more frustration. So this last week in August, which is the first week of the next lunar month, things could be very frustrating, very tense, and just not feel as good. Okay, let's look at how the new moon will affect America. And again, I'm using the July 2nd, 1776 chart for America. And you can see that we're starting this lunar month primarily with tense aspects. We have transiting Chiron square natal Pluto. We have transiting Mars and the transiting lunar nodal axis conjunct Neptune and square natal Mars. So there's going to be a lot of anger out there in America this month. And then we also have transiting Mars, making a semi-square to the north node, a sesquiquadrate, to the south node. And that is going to intensify feelings of anger and aggression. So the beginning of this lunar month does not look all that great for America. There's going to be a fair amount of tension out there. It could result in sporadic acts of violence or even more organized aggression against particular people, particular countries, particular groups. All right. Let's look at August 17th. Around the middle of the month is when things are a little bit more active. And we're going to have transiting Mars square the midheaven. Midheaven's misspelled. I'll correct that later. And it's going to be conjunct the ascendant. So expect America to be more aggressive and angrier in some ways. We still have transiting Chiron square natal Pluto. And we have transiting Saturn and Neptune square Venus, creating a lot of discontent in the country. And we have transiting Jupiter square Saturn. Growth and expansion meets with regulation, restriction, frustration. And let's see, we also have transiting Mars, making a sextile and trine to the lunar nodal axis. That will help release some of the tension and help some of these actions work out in a more coordinated fashion with less aggression, less violence, hopefully. Now, when we get to the new moon, the next new moon on August 22nd, which is when the next lunar month will begin, again, we see a fair amount of tension. Transiting Mars is going to be squaring the natal sun. Transiting Chiron will be squaring both natal Pluto and natal moon. Transit Venus will be opposite natal Pluto, so that is acting somewhat as a trigger point. And transiting Saturn, Neptune are going to be square natal Venus. So at this point in time, people in America are going to not be feeling quite so good. There are going to be policies that are frustrating them, restricting them. People are going to be a little bit more angry, probably direct anger at the executive branch. And with transiting Venus opposite natal Pluto, that sets things off. Maybe we'll see more protests like the No Kings protest. The good news is transiting Sun and Moon will be making a sextile to natal Venus. So despite these other frustrations and angers, some things will be happening that will be making people feel pretty good at the same time that they're angry about these other things. So, an interesting month for America. If we look at Donald Trump, again, this is going to be the part which represents the start of this next lunar month. He's had transiting Chiron trine Mars pretty much all of July. That will continue throughout all of August. This throws him a lifeline. Mars is conjunct his ascendant, and this is helping him to heal from all of these various attacks and things people are angry at. He still has transiting Uranus square his ascendant, which is making him very manic and chaotic. If you look at this stuff here, it's all Mars. Mars square Uranus, Mars square the North Node, Mars square the Moon, Mars square the Sun. This is all the anger he has felt as a result of the Jeffrey Epstein files being in the news and his inability to change the news cycle. People still want to talk about him and Jeffrey Epstein. So he's been pretty angry about that. But as we move into the last few days of this month, he'll have transiting Mars sextile Saturn, trine midheaven, sextile Venus. He's going to be feeling much better. Now, in August itself, as I said, Chiron will be trine natal Mars the entire month, bringing him some healing. A lot of his activity falls in the middle of the month, where we have Jupiter square Chiron. This could be wounding as a result of overreaching, trying to do too much of some sort of thing. Transiting Mars conjunct Neptune. So this is going to increase feelings of fanaticism, misinformation, disinformation, illusion on his part. Transiting Mars square Mercury, there could be some angry rhetoric. But at the end, here on the 22nd, we have Mars making a sextile to natal Pluto, which will allow more beneficial expression of these Martian energies. But, you know, some frustration, some angers for certain around the middle of the month. And then this part here, this is actually getting into the following lunar month, but he'll have Jupiter square Jupiter, again, danger of overreach, and Mars conjunct Chiron, which could result in physical or emotional wounding to himself or to others. And we're going to talk a little bit about this on the very last slide. Okay, if we look at Donald Trump in the new moon, transing Uranus is square his natal ascendant. So again, he's been very manic, flip-flopping a lot on various issues, very excitable, and very erratic and chaotic. Transing Mars is square his natal moon. At this point, he's going to be angry about things. Transing Pluto sesquiquadrate, natal Uranus. This adds fuel to the fire, making him even more manic than before. But he has good aspects. He has transing Venus, conjunct his natal sun. That is very, very beneficial. So something is also going to be making him feel very good at the end of the lunar month that we're discussing. And transing Chiron, trine his natal Mars. Again, was there for most of July, will be there for all of August. So with Mars conjunct his ascendant, he's getting healing. This aspect has been his lifeline of late, helping him deal with all these other obstacles and frustrations. Okay. Now, by mid-August, things are going to be fairly tense. He still has transing Chiron, trine his natal Mars to give him a lifeline and some healing and help release some of this tension. He has transing Jupiter square natal Chiron, which can cause some wounding as a result of overreach, and semi-square his ascendant. Again, try not to take on too much. Transing Sun is square his natal midheaven, so there could be some hits to his prestige and his status. The transing lunar nodal axis is making a square to his natal Uranus. That's pretty strong. So as I keep saying, the indications everywhere are he's going to be manic, erratic, chaotic, and flip-flopping on issues. He has transing Mars conjunct his natal Neptune, and that is going to intensify the illusions within his mind. He'll probably be more delusional, engage in more misinformation and disinformation at this point as a direct result of that conjunction. And it's worth noting that Neptune rules his 8th house of death and transformation. 8th house also has to do with other people's money. It's more likely that Donald Trump takes some action which transfers more money from other people to him in the long run. It's probably less likely that he will die at this point. That would be an extreme case. But an accident or an assassination attempt, that's not out of the realm of possibility. I think it's less likely, but it could happen. And then we get to the end of this lunar month I'm discussing, which will be the beginning of the next lunar month on August 22nd. Sun and Moon are conjunct the ascendant, so he's going to be reaffirming his core self again. He's probably going to be feeling pretty good and feel like he can just be himself or that he's found himself. But the lunar nodal axis is still squaring Uranus, so still going to be very chaotic and manic in his activities. But he has these good aspects too. Transing Mars is making a nice sextile to Pluto, and transiting Chiron is making a trine to natal Mars. So his energy levels will feel good, and he'll feel like he is healing from some of the emotional toll of this particular lunar month. Okay, and here's that August 30th chart I wanted to tell you about. I've got a quad wheel. The wheel inside is that July 2nd, 1776 chart for America. But for what I want to discuss, the July 4th Sibley chart works just as well. In the next ring, we have Trump's natal chart. In the third ring, we have his progress chart for this year. And the fourth ring represents the transits on August 30th. Now, working our way from the inside out, America has this opposition between Saturn and Chiron. It doesn't look too tight, but you have to keep in mind that there was an exact opposition at the beginning of the summer of 1776 and an exact opposition at the end. So the whole summer was really about the opposition between Saturn and Neptune. And those were the vibes, the energies in the air all summer long. Now, at its best, Chiron in Aries represents the spiritual worth and dignity of every individual. And that's what we see in documents like the Declaration of Independence. And Saturn in Libra at its best represents creating good structures in our relationships with others. And when this opposition is operating at its best, we integrate the spiritual dignity and worth of every individual into the relationships that we have with other people and other nations. And we do that a lot as America. But this can also manifest at its worst. And at its worst, we wound other people and we try to control other people and other countries. Saturn and Libra. And America, sadly, has a long history of that. We had a shameful history with slavery. We engaged in genocide against the indigenous population here. We have oppressed all sorts of groups of foreigners from time to time. We're engaged in that sort of thing right now under Donald Trump. And we have a long history of overthrowing leaders of other nations. And even when we're not doing that, we're trying to manipulate and coerce them using our economic power into getting them to do what we want. So America can also be very controlling and very wounding to others at the same time. Interestingly, the chart for modern Russia, which goes back to the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1971, it also has an opposition between Saturn and Chiron, but it seems to have rarely expressed the best side of that opposition. Instead, it's trying to control and take over its neighbors, beginning with Ukraine. Okay, now, surrounding this chart, we have Trump's chart. And one of the really important things here is, look here, in the USA chart, Saturn at 14 plus degrees of Libra. In Trump's chart, Chiron at 14 plus degrees Libra. No one has wounded the structures of America's government and its democracy in modern times more than Donald Trump. However, if you are a Trump supporter, you will see this differently. You will see this as Trump simply draining the swamp. Either way, Trump is making a lot of severe changes to the structure of America and to the structure of its democracy. Now, in the progress chart for this year, Trump's progress Mars is also at 14 plus degrees Libra. So this tendency for Trump to either wound or dismantle structures of American government and democracy, or drain the swamp, if you want to look at it that way, that tendency is on steroids in this year for this administration. And then if we look at the circle of transits on August 30th, on the outside, we see transiting Chiron strongly trine his natal Mars. We've talked about that before. That always helps heal him and throws him a lifeline. But look where transiting Mars is on this day. It is at 14 plus degrees of Libra. So this is a day that he could take action even more aggressively to dismantle structures in America, to wound or dismantle our democracy. So keep an eye out with respect to what happens around August 30th for Trump. Mars will be conjunct his natal Chiron, so he could be physically wounded on this day, or he could be wounding others, or he could just be very angry. This could represent a few days where he's feeling more tense, more angry, but other people experience that sort of thing, and they just keep it under control. They don't show it to the world. Trump never tends to keep things under control. It's pretty much if there's a certain transit going on, he expresses it without any filtering or mitigation of the results. So, like I said, he could just keep all of those angry, assertive feelings inside, or he could express them, or he could have an accident and wound himself, or someone could try to wound him instead. All of those things are possibilities. Or he could just double down on his the speed with which he is transforming structures in America and transforming our democracy. Okay, well, I think that's the last slide. So let me stop sharing and we can wrap this up. Okay, and I'm back here. My pretty face. I'm back. Wow. What we see for the world in general, we're undergoing a big change in things. Structures in the world are changing rapidly between now and next spring. And we certainly see Donald Trump bringing a lot of that on with his tariff policies. That is upending global trade. But there are also new and beneficial things happening. At the very least, we're getting all sorts of new technology and new inventions, which will also change our lives. These visions will be turned into reality. People are also going to be opening up their minds to more transcendent thoughts. This can bring about a new liberalism or progressivism. And then some people will become enlightened and get a real spiritual boost from this period. For America, there's going to be more tensions in the air. And for Donald Trump, there will be more tensions and more frustrations in the air. And things will reach perhaps a peak of activity around the middle of the month for both America and for Donald Trump. But for Donald Trump in particular, let's keep an eye on what's happening with him and how he is acting on August 30th. It could just be 2 or 3 days when he's feeling angry and he doesn't show it. But that is not his style. Usually, whatever he feels, he just acts upon it immediately without any filters. So he could be very angry. He could double down on new initiatives to dismantle structures in our government and wound democracy even more. Or there could be an accident he has or some aggression taken against him. These are all possibilities. Some are going to be more likely than others, and we just have to wait and see. So that is going to be it for this particular lunar month. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you join me again for further astrological presentations. But for now, I'll just say so long and be well.